This episode was recorded on August 23rd, 2025. Today, I'm sitting down with Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette as she asks voters for a promotion, where she stands on health care, how she plans to grow business, and her not-so-hot take on the Cracker Barrel rebrand. We talked to Lowcountry voters. Trump was in true campaign form. Voting is officially underway. Joe Biden spoke here in the heart of downtown.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Lieutenant Governor, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, can we start off, though, with something that's been driving me crazy right now? I think we just really, honestly, need to get this straight on the record because I'm seeing it everywhere. People are pronouncing your name two different ways. So let's set the record straight for everybody who's listening.
Yes.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Evette.
There you go.
Evette. So when I was in Dorchester last weekend, I made the whole crowd. It was the Faith, Family, and Freedom Dorchester dinner, and I made the whole, and everybody laughed because the governor, it's really getting under the governor's skin too, because he's like, Pamela, why do they not pronounce your name right? I told him to make an executive order, make everybody across the state say it the right way 3 times, but it's Evette. It's not fancy. Evette sounds very fancy, like it's French, but it's just Evette.
Evette, there it is. Okay, now we can clip that and we can put that everywhere, just that little sound bite, so everybody from now on knows it is Evette.
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 I'm going to take you with me because now you know how to say it. You can introduce me everywhere.
Perfect. Well, let's talk about the Evette family for just a moment because a couple weeks ago you posted, actually it was maybe a week and a half ago, you posted on your X account that you just moved your son into Clemson.
I did. It was very sad. For all the moms out there, the empty nest depression is real. I didn't really, I have 2 other children and I thought, oh, okay. But when your baby leaves and you come back home, poor David, I looked at him all teary-eyed and I said, no, it's just you and the dogs and my mom. And he was like, I'm not going to take that personal. But it's sad I love being a mom and loved having him home.
But at least you've got something to distract you, at least in the the interim. But also, do you think that, how do you think that move politically is going to play with the Gamecock voters out there?
So this is funny because I get this a lot, right?
Really?
But I'm an equal opportunity tuition payer, right? So my daughter went down here at College of Charleston. She did her law school at USC School of Law. My middle son went to technical college, and Jackson's at Clemson. So, see, I root for every South Carolina team. It's just, you have your favorite. David, my husband, is a big Clemson Tiger. So, but I really do love pulling for all our schools, and they've all done so good. Whether you're talking Coach Beamer at USC, what a great role model for those boys. Dabo Sweeney prays with the boys, worries about, their academics, worries about them, spiritually, and worries about them on the field. I mean, we can't tout enough about all of our colleges and all of those programs who have great leaders at the helm. So I'm really happy to be Lieutenant Governor. I have a whole bunch of great teams to root for.
Yeah, perfectly calculated, it sounds like. It sounds like you almost said we need to get everybody, we need to spread out across the state, make sure we're not leaving anyone out.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's talk about your background for just a moment. For folks who maybe don't know, I don't know why they wouldn't, but in case they don't know, elected in 2018, 7 years as the lieutenant governor. Before that, a business leader, founder, CEO, president. I'm missing a couple of hats as well for a company that you started that predominantly deals with payroll, benefits, things like that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I want to make sure I got it right.
You got it right.
And on top of that, trained accountant.
Yes.
So you're kind of the businesswoman candidate.
I am. And, it was interesting. Like you said, I can't believe I'm in my 7th year as lieutenant governor. That time has gone by incredibly fast. But it was just for that specific reason that Governor McMaster chose me. Because not only am I the first female Republican lieutenant governor, I'm the first lieutenant governor ever elected with a governor. And so, after someone wins the primary, they are able to select who will be on the ticket with them. And Governor McMaster had very specific qualifications. He wanted a business person that had a fresh set of eyes, that could come and be his partner in government to see what we were doing well, we know that, businesses succeeding is really the backbone of all states, right? Because you want your people, you want your businesses to thrive so that their workers and their workforce can thrive. And you want to make sure that those businesses stay successful and we're not doing anything to hinder that success. Because as you mentioned, we have all these great colleges and technical colleges across our state. And we want to keep those very talented graduates right here in South Carolina.
I mean, you didn't exactly apply for the job. I'm curious
No.
how you and Governor McMaster kind of came to be on the ticket together. What did that, I don't know if it was a phone call or a meeting or something. What's the story here? How'd you guys get mixed up?
So it's a great story. We definitely got connected through both of us supporting President Trump. And so because of that, we got to meet. The governor was then the lieutenant governor. And we met at some Trump functions, got to know each other. And one day he called me. And he asked me to come down to Columbia and talk with him. And so I was super excited because I never had a governor call me and ask me to have a meeting. But when I went in and told my husband, David, I tell this story a lot over the last 7 years. He just looked at me kind of expressionless and said, whatever he asks you, just say no. Because we had, like you mentioned, we had a very successful, large national company, 3 children, 2 moms, horses, dogs. He's like, you can't be on another board or commission. I sat on the board for St. Francis, and he's like, we just don't have enough time in the day. So went down about a week later and sat with the governor, and we just had a great conversation like this. And he just came out and said, Pamela, I'd like you to be my lieutenant governor. Wow. And I was stunned.
Just
right?
like
It was like that. Wow. And it was for all the reasons we talked about a minute ago. He wanted somebody who signed the front of a paycheck, not the back. Somebody who had a fresh set of eyes, somebody who knew what balancing a budget would look like, somebody that could sit down with a business owner and let them tell them what was working well in our state and not working well. And that's what I've really loved about what I've done. I mean, I went back, called my husband. You can imagine his shock, but my entire family, kids, husband, mother, super supportive, said, go do this. Because I had talked about a lot with my husband and with friends, other business owners, how I felt government never brought business to the table. And we all want to be there to help. And I think that is something that the governor and I have done really good during our administration, is really collaborating. You always hear the governor say it, cooperation, collaboration, that's what makes everything better. And I love the fact we bring business to the table now, and we really fine tune in their expertise to make South Carolina better, right? And fix what needs fixing. And
you never held an elected office before?
No, I wasn't. I never even ran for like high school class president. I didn't. But in what I did, dealing with government regulations every day, I mean, the overreach of the government is really what caused my business probably to grow, because small businesses, medium-sized businesses, sometimes even large businesses, because our largest client had 50,000+ employees. The regulations were changing so much every single day that they just couldn't focus on it. And if you're a small or medium-sized business, the fines were steep. Like I said, the regulations kept changing. And so I was entrenched in it, and every day got more and more frustrated, no matter what state I was in, that my grandparents, who were immigrants, had a better shot of reaching the American dream than my kids did.
Yeah, I think lots of business owners, they want to be able to focus on the reason they got into business, selling the product or whatever it is, than having to deal with jumping through all the hoops and getting through the red tape to, I don't know, get a business loan or to pay their employees.
You're right.
Yeah. Let's jump into your platform here.
Sure. So
we know, as a pro-Trump Republican, that you're generally aligned with the president on things like immigration, the Second Amendment rights. Your website also says that you're very supportive of the state's current abortion policy. Now, I want to go a little bit deeper, though, because I want to know what you think the biggest issue is in this campaign, in this race, in, I guess it's 2025, but coming up in 2026.
So I think there's not just one big issue. And I think that's the difference between a career politician and being a business owner. You realize there's not just one thing you can keep your eye on. You have to be able to keep your eye on a lot of different things because anybody who's ever owned a business knows you have 10 balls in the air at any given time and you can't let any of them drop. And all those things work together. And that's why, I'm so proud that while we've been in office, we've done so many great things, right? So we have backed our law enforcement. We have given them the biggest raises they've ever had in our state's history. That's a huge reason, safety, that people come to South Carolina. We've given the largest state income tax cuts in the state's history. Now, we can't stop there. I believe that under my administration, we will eliminate state income tax because other states are doing it. And if you're a business owner, you know that you compete with other businesses around you. But as the CEO of this state, you know you're competing with all the other states around you. And so we can and we will do it. Texas, Tennessee, Florida have done it. We can do it too.
One of the things on your website that you mention is you want to, let me see if I have this right here. End the political nonsense in Columbia. What does that mean from a platform position, and how do you do that?
Well, I think a lot of that will fall under the umbrella of what I'm calling SCOGE, right? President Trump called it Doge. We can make that a little bit more personal here in South Carolina and have an Office of Government Efficiency. And that's what, if you're a business person, every year you look to strive to make your business more efficient because that drops profit to your bottom line. And that has probably been the most frustrating thing is like, how do we get everybody to work together? Anybody, it's not just South Carolina. How do we leverage technology within government, just like every business is doing in the private sector, to run efficiently? And that is a big part of SCOGE, using AI, using technology to really work together. South Carolina is growing. We're never going to be able to hire massive amounts of people to do the work. So now we have to make investments in technology, just like every other profitable business is doing.
Is there that much waste in the South Carolina government that we need an entire office or a department dedicated to eliminating waste and in this case, promote efficiency?
What I'm proposing is not to have more bureaucracy. It's to bring in like leaders within the community and talk about what they're seeing from their vantage point. We have great cabinet directors. The governor and I are in charge of multiple cabinets from the Department of Admin on down. And to give those real world insights to them, I think President Trump did it well. Let's not make government bigger. Let's bring in experts. Let's come down with the recommendations. Let's get a fresh perspective, and now let's execute. And that's the difference. We don't need bigger government. We need a government that's more efficient, that's not running on outdated systems and platforms, so they can leverage all this new technology that everybody else is leveraging all over the world.
When you and I chatted in, I think it was Williamsburg County, this was a couple months ago, I asked you this question then, I'm going to ask it to you again. Healthcare is a big issue. It's always an issue in every campaign. The One Big Beautiful Bill has created some situations where there's less money potentially going out in Medicare, Medicaid, and there are folks and institutions that stand to lose quite a bit here in the coming years. Rural hospitals, potentially big problem for them. What do you do as governor to make sure that everybody has access to health care, health insurance, and quite honestly, in some of these locations, hospitals?
So, rural health care has been something that I have looked at as long as I've been in office, right? Because that is a big problem here in South Carolina. But in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the one thing that I've had a lot of interest coming into my office over the last few weeks is people that are utilize technology to help rural health care. That was money for that is in the One Big Beautiful Bill, strictly for rural health care to come into states like ours and really get on the cutting edge of finally fixing this problem. And so I think that's the one big advantage. I think when everybody was talking about the cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, those kind of things, a lot of those cuts was because we were turning off the spigot to illegals. Now, we didn't have that problem here in South Carolina because you had to be a citizen. You had to, we didn't allow our state to go down that path. But you hear all the time about the fraud and abuse that happens within these systems. And that's why when you're forced to get tighter, when you look at the principles of SCOGE and what it will do, making sure that we don't have people on our programs that shouldn't be, making sure that everybody on there honestly should. And something you saw the governor do this week, during the prior Trump administration, the governor created an executive order that basically said, if you can work, you need to work. And if you want to be eligible for benefits, then you either have to be working 80 hours a month or you have to be in a qualified program through one of our technical colleges so that you can get, these programs are always meant to be a bridge, not a floating houseboat that you live in forever, right? And so that's what this starts to do. I think when you start tightening your belt, then every business owner will tell you that. When money gets tighter, you start to get sharper on what you're doing. And that's how you cut off waste, fraud, and abuse. I don't think you're going to see it in any state. You're definitely not going to see it in South Carolina like it was identified at the federal level, but we can always do better.
One of the things that you've put on your website that I haven't seen many other candidates talking about, and which is something that personally I'm happy to see somebody talking about it, is you talk about supporting farmers in South Carolina. Agriculture, I think, is it our number one industry or our second industry?
Absolutely. So I always tease, like, Hugh Weathers and Dwayne Parrish arm wrestle for who brings in the most revenue, right? That's our ag commissioner and our PRT director. But they're a huge part of South Carolina's economy. And I was with them this week. I was in Marlboro and Dillon and Mullins, and it was great to listen to them. But what I'm going to tell you is, like, every time I've listened to a farmer, they are so resilient. And I told them that is their best asset and probably the reason they don't get the empathy that we should be giving them as farmers.
Or the spotlight, for that matter.
Because they do. Like, when we had Hurricane Helene, I was out at the Janss's pecan farm. The governor and I were out in Edgefield. They had lost acres upon acres of pecan trees 2 weeks from harvest. These trees were 15 plus years old, right? So they were mature. Mm-hmm. They lost them all. Were they crying and huddled up in a mess? No. They were cleaning up the mess. They were looking forward to planting new trees, and they were moving on. And so I told them their resiliency is so strong that sometimes people don't see it because they make it look so easy, and it's really hard.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, you think it's easy to plant something and then harvest it, but anybody who has even a backyard garden could tell you that
I can't even grow bamboo. I can even kill bamboo. That's how sad it is. So I have the utmost respect for anybody who can grow things.
Well, on the issue though with farmers, one of the things I've heard from some of them is this issue of finding enough labor to get their crops harvested. Mm-hmm. Much of that labor does come from outside the country, and there is a lot of fear right now around ICE officials swooping in and picking folks up. What have you heard from farmers? What can you do as governor to reassure these folks that we will be able to get the workers that they need to harvest the crops?
Farmers are amazing Americans and true patriots, and they see the bigger picture, right? President Trump got a mandate from America, right? He has always been very proud of his promises made, promises kept. So President Trump ran on closing the borders, north and south, and deporting dangerous illegals. And that's exactly what he's doing. And the farmers realize this, right? That, this is something that the American people want. It is a huge drain on infrastructure. They get it. I mean, when the Biden administration opened the floodgates, our schools weren't ready, housing wasn't ready, our medical system wasn't ready, nothing was ready for this kind of flood in. And it has really taken away from Americans, and most people see that. I think as Americans, we're the most compassionate people in the world. But if you want compassion, what the Biden administration did is they put all those people running for our border in harm's way, from cartels and coyotes. Children, less than 15% was an article I read, showed up at the border with a family member. If only 15% showed up with a family member, where was the outrage for the others? Whose children were they? How did they get with a non-family member, and why were they at our border? Like, nobody ever talked about that. None of it was humane. It's not humane to bring people here and not have a spot for them. That wasn't the way my grandparents came over. So
I want to move on for a moment because I want to talk about polling for just a second.
Sure.
Now, the polling is kind of all over the place, and we are very much in early days of this race. Some polls come out, you're second, some third, maybe even fourth in other polls. How accurate do you think these polls are? And if they are accurate, how do you turn things around?
So I think like you said, this is very early in the game. And it's interesting because I have not paid for a poll yet. And I find it interesting when I look at these polls, whatever candidate pays for the poll, they seem to be in the lead. But there was a poll that came out from a very well-respected Trump pollster, Robert Cahaley, and I was leading, and I didn't pay for that poll. It was a complete shock to me when it hit the airwaves. So what I tell people is there's a long way to go between now and June.
Yeah.
They know who I am. And people from across the state, I mean, for me, it's not a campaign, it's a movement, right? We need a governor that will stand with President Trump, that will bring the American First agenda and keep it live and well in our state, and who has the resume to do it. You know, the general fund, $15+ billion. Who in their right mind would give that kind of money to somebody who has never ran anything? And so,
well, it seems like this race got kind of messy right at the very beginning before it even started, really. And to be fair, most of that messiness comes from one candidate in particular. She's described you as a nice lady. Is that a badge that you wear with honor? I mean, would you describe yourself as a nice lady?
I do. I'm nice, I'm fair, but I'm tough as nails, right? And I don't let that kind of theatrics, that's Washington theatrics, right? People want somebody that they can count on. They want somebody that's a business owner, that has signed the front of a check, that's balanced budgets, that's created jobs, that's been able to make tough decisions. That's what people want. They want somebody that's going to help them at their kitchen table when life gets hard. Businesses want somebody at the helm that understands what they're going through. And you can be nice and tough all in the same sentence. Any parent will tell you that, right? And so I wear it. That is fine. I never knew being a nice person was a bad thing. And if that's what the political climate has gotten, then we should all take a deep breath.
Yeah, we don't do that kind of stuff around here. We're trying to keep it clean.
We're South Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I got one more question here for you before I let you give your closing pitch to voters. A bit of recent news here.
Sure.
Cracker Barrel has rebranded. Have you seen the rebrand, and what do you think about it, if you have?
I have. I actually did a little tweet about it because when will people learn, right? Like, there is something wholesome about Cracker Barrel. You go into Cracker Barrel, everything's rustic, right? I mean, you go to the table, there's the peg game. I mean, there's something to be said about the wholesome things that has made America what it is. And I think when you get people in and they try to change a look, we see what that happens. Well, gosh, we saw it with Budweiser. Now we're seeing it with Cracker Barrel stock falling. I mean, sometimes if it's not broke, don't try to fix it.
It's kind of funny because actually people on both sides of the political aisle have kind of denounced the Cracker Barrel rebrand. For me, I just can't stand the fact that the new brand, the new logo is just really boring. It's just an orange little sticker with the name on it. And I don't know, from a marketing standpoint, it just doesn't seem like that's going to stand out anywhere. But I don't know.
You know what? That's what happens. I mean, I'm sure we'll see some changes at the top if the stock continues to fall. Right.
Look what happened with Target. Okay. Before I let you go, though, give us your pitch to voters. Why should they make you the next governor of South Carolina?
Well, thank you. What I've been saying to voters is the choice is clear in this race. You can either pick from a conservative businesswoman, a woman of faith, and a mother of three, or you can pick from a menu of career politicians who will promise you things that they probably don't know how to do and can't do. You can stick with somebody who's been with President Trump from the beginning. Because I've been with President Trump when I wasn't even in politics, when it didn't matter if I was supporting him or not. So it didn't change my everyday life at all. And I was the only, when you look at the field of everybody that's thrown their hat in this race for governor, not one of them stood beside the president in January of 23 when he came to the Capitol on that Saturday afternoon, because I knew he was the right man for the job. We needed a tough as nails business person that knew how to get the job done, and he has not let us down. He's 8 months in. We own 10% of Intel now. I mean, he has brokered peace around the world. He continues to do that. Stock markets, Dow was the highest it's been, almost at 900 points the other day. I think he has done such a great job. That is what we needed. I knew that's what we needed. And I didn't care that there was no polling out on him then. I didn't care that the world was thinking he was going to get indicted and thrown in jail, because loyalty matters. And I was loyal to the president.
All right. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.